The transport ship New Dawn moved slowly through space. Its metal walls were old and scratched. Inside the ship, people sat close together on hard benches. These were not happy travelers going on vacation. They were refugees running from their destroyed homeworld. Jake Martinez walked down the narrow hallway between the crowded rooms. He was the captain of this old ship. His uniform was clean but had been fixed many times. Jake was not a young man anymore. His hair was gray at the sides and his face had lines from years of worry. But his eyes were kind, and he always tried to help people. "Captain," called Dr. Lisa Parker from behind him. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. Lisa had joined the refugee group to help them find a new place to live. She was smart and worked hard, but she looked tired like everyone else. "What is it, Doctor?" Jake asked as he turned around. "We need food and water soon." "The children are getting sick," Lisa said. Her voice was quiet, but Jake could hear she was worried. Jake nodded. He knew this already. The ship had too many people and not enough supplies. "We will reach Haven Point Space Station in 2 hours. They have agreed to let us stop there." Haven Point was a neutral space station. It was built where human space and alien space met. Many different species lived and worked there together. Usually they got along well, but sometimes there were problems. 2 hours later, the New Dawn docked at Haven Point. The space station was huge and bright. Through the windows, Jake could see aliens walking around. Some looked almost human. Others were very different. Jake led a group of refugees into the station. They needed to buy food and medicine. The humans stayed close together as they walked. Everything around them was strange and new. The alien writing on the walls looked like drawings. The air smelled different. Strange sounds came from every direction. The refugees had very little money. Jake used his own credits to buy what he could, but it was not enough for everyone. Some of the children had not eaten in 2 days. Their mothers looked at Jake with desperate eyes. "Please," said one woman holding a small boy. "He needs food." Jake's heart hurt when he saw the hungry children. He wanted to help but did not know how. The station's food was expensive and he had already spent all his money. While Jake was thinking, some of the refugees wandered away from the main group. They were looking for cheaper food or maybe something free. They found a beautiful garden area in the station. Green plants grew everywhere. Strange flowers bloomed in colors they had never seen. The hungry refugees saw fruit growing on some of the plants. It looked safe to eat. They did not know this was a sacred place for the Zilithians. The Zilithians were tall, alien warriors who lived on Haven Point. They had skin that looked like crystal and changed colors. This garden was very important to their religion. The refugees began picking the fruit. They were so hungry they did not think about asking permission. As they picked the fruit, they accidentally broke some branches. One man bumped into a small tree and it fell over. Just then, a young Zilithian child came running into the garden. Her name was Cathara, and she was only about 8 years old. Her crystal skin was bright blue, which meant she was happy and curious. She came to this garden every day to play and talk to the plants. When Cathara saw the humans in her special place, she stopped running. She did not understand what was happening. The humans looked scared when they saw her. One man tried to put the tree back up, but it fell again. This time it fell toward the little girl. Cathara tried to move away, but she was too slow. The tree hit her and knocked her down. She cried out in pain and fear. Her crystal skin turned dark red, which meant she was hurt and scared. The humans ran to help her. They pulled the tree off and tried to see if she was badly hurt. Cathara had cuts on her arms and legs, but nothing was broken. Still, she was crying, and her skin kept changing from red to black. "Is she okay?" asked Lisa, who knew about alien biology. "I think so," said one of the refugees. "But we should get help." They did not have to wait long. Heavy footsteps came running toward the garden. Zilithian warriors appeared at the entrance. They were huge, almost 8 feet tall. Their crystal skin was bright red with anger. They carried weapons that glowed with energy. Behind them came Commander Veltara. She was Cathara's mother, and one of the most important warriors on Haven Point. When she saw her daughter on the ground with humans around her, her skin turned almost black with rage. "What have you done?" Beltara shouted. Her voice was deep and scary. She ran to her daughter and picked her up gently. Kethara stopped crying when she felt her mother's arms around her. The refugees backed away. They were very afraid. They had heard stories about Zilithian warriors. These aliens were much stronger and faster than humans. When they got angry, they were very dangerous. "It was an accident," Jake said as he pushed through the crowd. "They were just hungry. They did not mean to hurt anyone." Veltara looked at Jake with angry yellow eyes. "Your people have harmed a child in our sacred place. This cannot be forgiven." More Zilithians came into the garden. Soon the refugees were surrounded. Jake could see that his people were terrified. Some of the women were crying. The children hid behind their parents. "According to our laws," Veltara said in a cold voice, "those who harm our children must pay with their lives. This is justice." Jake felt his blood turn cold. He knew about Zilithian laws. They were very strict about protecting children. If someone hurt a Zilithian child, even by accident, the punishment was death. "Please," Jake said. "They are refugees. They have lost everything. They were just trying to survive." "The law is the law," Veltara replied. Her skin was still dark with anger. "Someone must pay for this crime." Jake looked at the scared faces around him. These people had already suffered so much. They had lost their homes, their friends, their whole way of life. Now they might die because they were hungry and made a mistake. Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. He stepped forward, away from the other humans. He stood between Veltara and the refugees. "Then I will pay," Jake said clearly. "I am responsible for these people. If someone must die, let it be me." The garden became very quiet. Even the Zilithian warriors looked surprised. Veltara stared at Jake for a long moment. Her skin slowly changed from black to deep red. "You would die for them?" she asked. "Yes," Jake answered without hesitation. "They are under my protection. I take full responsibility for what happened here." Veltara's eyes narrowed as she studied Jake's face. She was trying to understand why a human would do such a thing. In her culture, only family members would make such a sacrifice. "Very well," she said finally. "I challenge you to ritual combat. If you win, your people go free. If you lose, you die with honor. The fight will happen in 3 days." Jake nodded. He had just agreed to fight one of the strongest warriors in the galaxy. He knew he would probably die, but at least the refugees would be safe. As the Zilithians left the garden, little Kethara looked back at Jake over her mother's shoulder. Her crystal skin was no longer dark with fear. Instead, it glowed with a soft golden light that Jake did not understand yet. Jake sat alone in his small room on the new dawn. 3 days seemed like no time at all. In 3 days, he would fight Commander Veltara and probably die. But at least the refugees would be safe. That thought gave him some peace. Dr. Lisa Parker knocked on his door. "Jake, can I come in?" "Of course," Jake said. He was cleaning his old service pistol even though weapons were not allowed in the ritual fight. Lisa sat down across from him. Her face was full of worry. "There has to be another way. Maybe I can talk to the station authorities. Maybe we can appeal to the Galactic Council." Jake shook his head. "Zilithian honor law is absolute. Once a challenge is made, it cannot be taken back. Besides, what we did was wrong, even if it was an accident." "But you were not even there when it happened," Lisa said. "I am the captain. These people are my responsibility." Jake put down his weapon and looked at her. "Lisa, I need you to take care of them after I am gone. Make sure they get to a safe colony." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. "I will. But I still think this is crazy." After Lisa left, Jake went to the station's information center. He needed to learn everything he could about Zilithian fighting. If he was going to die, he wanted to at least put up a good fight. The computer showed him videos of Zilithian warriors. In combat, they were incredibly fast and strong. Their crystal skin was harder than human skin and could stop most weapons. They had 4 arms instead of 2, which gave them a big advantage in fighting. Jake watched the videos until his eyes hurt. The Zilithians moved like dancers, but deadly dancers. Their fighting style was ancient and had been practiced for thousands of years. Jake was just a human ship captain who had learned basic combat in the military years ago. On the second day, someone unexpected came to see Jake. It was Mordan, an old Zilithian scholar who worked at the station's library. Unlike the warriors, his crystal skin was a calm blue color, and he moved slowly and carefully. "Captain Martinez," Mordan said in his quiet voice, "I have come to offer my help." Jake was surprised. "Why would you want to help me?" "Because what you did was honorable," Mordan replied. "You accepted punishment to protect the weak. This shows great character. I do not want to see such honor die without a fair chance." Mordan began teaching Jake about Zilithian fighting techniques. He was too old to demonstrate the moves himself, but he could explain them. He showed Jake weak points in Zilithian anatomy and how their four-armed fighting style worked. "Remember," Mordan said, "Zilithians are faster and stronger than humans, but they are not used to fighting opponents who can endure pain like humans can. Your species is famous for your stubbornness. Use that." Jake practiced the movements Mordan taught him. His body was sore and his muscles ached, but he kept going. He had to be ready. On the evening of the second day, Jake was practicing in a quiet part of the station when he noticed something strange. There were small gifts left where he would find them. A crystal flower, a small carved stone, traditional Zilithian good luck charms. Jake looked around but saw no one. Then he caught a glimpse of blue crystal skin disappearing around a corner. It was little Kethara. She had been watching him practice and leaving him gifts. This made Jake feel even worse about the whole situation. The child he had accidentally hurt was trying to help him. She did not understand that he was going to fight her mother to the death. On the third morning, Jake woke up before dawn. This was the day he would probably die. He put on the simple armor that Mordan had found for him. It was old and did not fit very well, but it was better than nothing. Jake walked to the station's central arena. This was where the fight would take place. Thousands of Zilithians had come to watch. They filled the seats around the fighting area. Jake had never seen so many aliens in one place. The human refugees were there too, in a special section. They looked scared and sad. Many of them were crying. They knew that Jake was about to die for them, and they felt terrible about it. Dr. Lisa stood with the other humans. She raised her hand and waved at Jake. He waved back, trying to smile. He wanted them to remember him as brave, not scared. Commander, Veltara entered the arena from the opposite side. She was wearing her full battle armor, which was made from polished crystal and metal. It covered most of her body and made her look even more frightening. She carried 4 weapons, one for each hand. They glowed with energy and hummed with power. Jake looked tiny compared to her. He had only basic armor and carried 2 simple plasma batons. The weapons were not even his. The station had provided them according to the rules of ritual combat. Zilithian judge stepped forward to explain the rules. "This is a fight to the death or until one warrior yields. No mercy will be shown. The honor of both species depends on this combat." Jake and Veltara walked to the center of the arena. Up close, she was even more intimidating. Her crystal skin was dark red with battle fury. Her yellow eyes stared down at Jake with no emotion. "You are brave for a human," she said quietly. "I will try to make your death quick." "Thank you," Jake replied. He meant it. He did not want to suffer. The judge raised his hand. "Let the ritual combat begin." Veltara attacked immediately. She was so fast that Jake barely saw her move. Her first strike hit his armor and sent him flying backward. He landed hard on the ground and felt pain shoot through his body. Jake rolled to the side just as another energy blade struck where his head had been. He got to his feet and tried to defend himself, but Veltara was everywhere at once. Her 4 arms moved in a pattern that was beautiful and deadly. Jake's armor cracked under her attacks. He was already bleeding from several cuts. The fight had barely started, and he was losing badly. The crowd of Zilithians was cheering for their champion, but Jake did not give up. Every time Veltara knocked him down, he got back up. Every time she hit him, he kept fighting. This was not because he thought he could win. He kept fighting because that was what humans do. They endure. As the fight continued, something strange began to happen. The Zilithian crowd became quieter. They had expected the human to die quickly or give up. Instead, they were watching him absorb punishment that would have killed most creatures and keep fighting. Veltara began to look frustrated. She was winning easily, but the human would not stay down. She hit him harder and harder, but he kept getting up. His face was bloody and his armor was falling apart, but his eyes still showed determination. "Yield!" Veltara shouted at him after, knocking him down for the 10th time. Jake spit blood from his mouth and stood up again. No. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the human refugees had stopped crying. Everyone was watching this small human refuse to give up against impossible odds. Veltara's skin began to change color. The dark red of battle fury was mixing with other colors. Jake could not understand what this meant, but Mordan, watching from the crowd, smiled slightly. The fight went on. Jake learned to predict some of Veltara's moves. He began to avoid her worst attacks and even managed to hit her a few times. His strikes did not hurt her much because of her tough skin and armor, but they surprised her. After almost an hour of fighting, both warriors were breathing hard. Veltara was not used to fighting for so long. Most of her opponents died or gave up quickly. Jake was covered in blood and could barely stand, but he was still fighting. In the crowd, little Cathara watched with wide eyes. Her mother was the strongest warrior she knew, but the human kept getting up. She began to understand that this human was fighting not because he hated her mother, but because he was protecting his people, just like her mother protected her. Veltara made a mistake. She put too much power into an attack and left herself open. Jake saw his chance and struck with both his weapons. He hit her in the side and she stumbled backward. For the first time in the fight, Veltara showed pain. She looked at Jake with new respect. This human had actually hurt her. No one had done that in years. Jake could have pressed his attack, but something stopped him. He saw Cathara in the crowd watching her mother fight. He thought about his own mother who had died when he was young. He could not bring himself to kill this child's mother. Veltara noticed his hesitation. She could have killed him in that moment, but instead she stepped back and studied his face. Her crystal skin was now showing colors that Jake had never seen before. "Why do you hesitate?" she asked. Jake looked at her, then at Cathara in the crowd. "Because she needs her mother more than I need to win." The arena was so quiet that everyone heard his words. Veltara's skin shifted to new colors again. In the crowd, many Zilithians were looking confused. This was not how ritual combat was supposed to go. Veltara lowered her weapons slightly. For the first time, she saw Jake not as an enemy, but as something else, something she was not sure she understood yet. The arena was silent except for the sound of both fighters breathing hard. Jake and Veltara stood facing each other, but neither moved to attack. The moment stretched on and on. Veltara's crystal skin was showing colors that most Zilithians had never seen before. Confusion, respect, and something else mixed together. She had been trained to fight her whole life, but no one had taught her what to do when an enemy showed mercy. "You could have killed me," she said quietly. Jake wiped blood from his mouth. "Maybe, but your daughter needs you. And your people need you," Veltara replied. "Yet you fight anyway." Jake nodded. "Someone has to take responsibility. That is what leaders do." The Zilithian judge looked confused. He had overseen many ritual combats, but never one where the fighters stopped to talk. The crowd was getting restless. They wanted to see the fight continue. "The combat is not finished," the judge announced loudly. "Continue fighting or one must yield." Veltara raised her weapons again, but Jake could see her heart was not in it anymore. She was thinking about what he had said. Still, the law was the law. The fight had to continue. "I cannot yield," Veltara said to Jake. "Our laws do not allow it." "I know," Jake said. "Neither can I." They began fighting again, but something had changed. Veltara was still faster and stronger. But she was not trying to kill Jake anymore. She was testing him, trying to understand him. Jake noticed the change and adapted his fighting style. He was no longer just trying to survive. He was showing Veltara who he really was through combat. Every time she knocked him down, he got up again. Every time she hurt him, he kept his honor. The crowd began to murmur. This was not normal ritual combat. Both fighters were holding back, but they were also showing incredible skill and determination. It was becoming something beautiful instead of just violent. In the refugee section, Dr. Lisa watched with amazement. She had known Jake for years, but she had never seen him fight like this. He was not trying to win anymore. He was trying to communicate. Little Kithara stood up in her seat to get a better view. Her crystal skin was glowing with excitement and wonder. She was watching her mother learn something new, and she was watching the strange human teach her. The fight continued for another hour. Both warriors were exhausted, but neither would give up. Jake's armor was completely destroyed now, and Veltara's was cracked in several places. They were both bleeding and hurt, but they kept fighting. Mordan, the old scholar, watched from the crowd with growing amazement. He had studied Zilithian culture his whole life, but he had never seen anything like this. The ritual combat was becoming something else entirely. Finally, both fighters were too tired to continue. They had been fighting for over 2 hours, longer than any ritual combat in Zilithian history. Jake fell to one knee, unable to get up again. Veltara swayed on her feet, barely able to stand. The judge did not know what to do. Neither fighter had died or yielded. This had never happened before in thousands of years of Zilithian law. Then something amazing happened. Jake tried to stand up one more time, but his legs would not support him. He began to fall backward. Veltara, seeing this, dropped her weapons and caught him before he hit the ground. For a moment, the two warriors held each other up. Both were breathing hard and covered in blood. But instead of enemies, they looked like two people who had shared something important. The crowd gasped. A Zilithian warrior never helped an enemy during combat. It was forbidden, but Veltara had acted without thinking, her body moving before her mind could stop it. "Why?" Jake whispered. "I do not know," Veltara replied honestly. They separated and stepped back from each other. Both were barely able to stand, but they faced each other with respect instead of hatred. The judge finally found his voice. According to ancient law, if both warriors survive the combat but neither yields, the challenged party has proven their worth and honor. The human Jake Martinez has earned the right to live. The crowd erupted in cheers and confusion. The refugees cried with relief. Their captain had survived something that should have killed him. But then, something happened that no one expected. Little Kithara broke free from the adults watching her and ran into the arena. She was not supposed to be there. Children were never allowed in the fighting area during ritual combat. "Kithara, no," Veltara called out, but her daughter did not stop. The little girl ran straight to Jake, who was still kneeling on the ground. Without fear, she placed her small crystal hands on his wounds. Immediately, her skin began to glow with a soft, golden light. The entire arena fell silent. What Kithara was doing was sacred. It was called the healing bond, and it was only performed between family members. The child was sharing her life energy to help Jake heal faster. Jake felt warmth spread through his body. The pain from his wounds began to fade. His cut stopped bleeding and started to close. He looked at the little girl in wonder. "Thank you," he whispered. Kithara smiled at him. "You protected my friends," she said in her small voice. "The refugees. They were just hungry. I understand now." Veltara stared at her daughter in shock. "Kithara, what have you done?" Mordan, the old scholar, stood up in the crowd. His voice carried across the silent arena. "She has performed the healing bond with one outside our species. According to the ancient laws, this can only happen when the child recognizes someone as family." A murmur went through the crowd. Everyone knew what this meant, but no one wanted to say it out loud. "There is more," Mordan continued. "The law states that when a warrior endures punishment to protect the innocent, and a child of the offended party offers healing, The warrior becomes bound to that family. Jake Martinez is now Cathara's shield father. The crowd exploded in discussion. Some Zilithians were angry, others were confused. A few seemed pleased by this strange turn of events. Veltara looked at Jake, then at her daughter, then back at Jake. Her crystal skin was cycling through colors so fast it was hard to follow. She was experiencing emotions she had never felt before. "Shield father?" Jake asked weakly. "It means you are family now," Cathara explained happily. "You are my second father, the one who protects me when mother cannot." Jake looked up at Veltara. She was staring at him with an expression he could not read. He had come here expecting to die. Instead, he had somehow become part of an alien family. Dr. Lisa pushed through the crowd and ran into the arena. "Jake, are you all right?" "I think so," Jake said, as Cathara helped him stand. The child's healing had given him strength, but he was still confused about everything that had happened. Veltara finally spoke. "The child has chosen," she said formally. "According to our laws, I must accept her choice or reject it. If I accept, Jake Martinez becomes part of our family unit. If I reject it..." "What happens if you reject it?" Jake asked. "Then you must leave Haven Point and never return. And Cathara will never forgive me." Veltara looked at her daughter, who was holding onto Jake's arm protectively. The arena waited for Veltara's decision. Jake waited too, not sure what he wanted her to choose. His life had just become very complicated. Veltara studied Jake's face for a long moment. She saw his kindness, his courage, and his willingness to sacrifice himself for others. She thought about how he had shown mercy during their fight, when he could have killed her. "I accept," she said finally. "Jake Martinez, you are now shield father to my daughter and my responsibility." Cathara cheered and hugged Jake tightly. The crowd had mixed reactions. Some cheered, some booed, and others just looked confused. Jake looked at Veltara over her daughter's head. "What does this mean exactly?" Veltara's skin showed a color Jake had never seen before. It was deep and complex, like the color of the ocean during a sunset. "It means," she said quietly, "that your life just became much more complicated, and so did mine." 3 weeks had passed since the ritual combat. Jake was staying in guest quarters on Haven Point while he recovered from his injuries. The healing bond that Cathara had performed had helped him heal quickly, but he was still sore and tired. Every day, little Cathara came to visit him. She brought him food, taught him Zilithian words, and told him stories about her people. Jake found himself looking forward to these visits. The child was curious about everything and asked endless questions about humans and Earth. "Why do humans only have 2 arms?" she asked one day while they sat in the station's observation deck looking at the stars. "I do not know," Jake admitted. "Why do Zilithians have 4? "For better hugs," Cathara said seriously, then demonstrated by wrapping all 4 of her small arms around Jake's waist. Jake laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in months. The child's innocence and joy were healing something inside, him that had been broken for a long time. Veltara usually came to pick up her daughter after these visits. She was always polite to Jake, but distant. She would nod to him and speak only when necessary. Jake could tell she was still uncomfortable with the whole situation. Dr. Lisa often joined Jake and Cathara during their visits. She was fascinated by Zilithian culture and was learning as much as she could. She had also become good friends with Morden, the old scholar. "Jake," Lisa said one afternoon, "Mordan wants to speak with you about something important. He says it is about Zilithian family law." Jake found Mordan in the station's library, surrounded by old books and data crystals. The elderly Zilithian looked more serious than usual. "Sit down, Jake Martinez," Morden said. "We need to discuss your new status in Zilithian society." "I am still confused about that," Jake admitted. "What exactly is a shield father?" Morden pulled out an ancient text. In old Zilithian culture, when warriors went to battle, they sometimes adopted other warriors as shield fathers for their children. These were men who promised to protect and care for the children if the parent died in combat. So, I am like a godfather? Jake asked. More than that, Morden said. A shield father becomes part of the family unit. He has the same rights and responsibilities as a biological father. But there is something else you need to understand. Mordan looked uncomfortable. When a child performs the healing bond with someone and names them shield father, Zilithian law gives the mother a choice. She can accept the bond as it is, or she can claim the shield father as her mate. Jake felt his blood go cold. Mate? Marriage, in human terms, Mordan explained. It is an ancient law designed to create strong family units. If Veltara claims you, you would become her husband and Cathara's legal father. But she has not said anything about this, Jake said. She has 30 days from the date of the bonding to make her decision. Today is day 21, Mordan said quietly. If she does not claim you by then, you remain shield father only. But Jake, there is something you should know about Veltara. Mordan told Jake about Veltara's past. She had been married to a warrior named Keltar, who died fighting space raiders 5 years ago. Since then, she had focused entirely on her military career and raising Cathara alone. She had never shown interest in taking another mate. She is proud and independent, Mordan said, but she is also lonely, though she would never admit it. Her daughter needs a father figure, and Veltara needs a partner, but she is afraid of being hurt again. That evening, Jake was walking through the station when he heard angry voices coming from a Zilithian residential area. He recognized Veltara's voice and followed the sound. Veltara was in her quarters arguing with several other Zilithian warriors. Jake could not understand all the words, but he heard his name mentioned several times. The other warriors sounded angry and disgusted. The human is weak, one warrior said in broken standard language. He does not deserve to be shield father to a Zilithian child. He proved his courage in combat, Veltara replied coldly. Against you, yes. But what about real danger? What happens when the raiders come again? Can he protect Cathara then? Jake was about to leave when he heard a new voice. It was Cathara, and she sounded upset. Jake is not weak, the little girl said. He is brave and kind. He makes me feel safe. Children do not understand these things, another warrior said. Commander Veltara, you must reject this bonding. Our people will not accept a human in our family units. There was silence for a moment. Then Veltara spoke in a voice like ice. My daughter has chosen. I will not go against her wishes. The human stays. The other warriors left, muttering angrily. Jake quickly moved away so they would not see him. He felt terrible that his presence was causing problems for Veltara and Cathara. Later that night, Jake was in his quarters when someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find Veltara standing there. She looked tired and stressed. May I come in? She asked. Of course, Jake said, stepping aside. Veltara sat down heavily. Her crystal skin was showing muted colors that Jake had learned meant sadness and worry. I heard some of the argument earlier, Jake said. I am sorry that I am causing problems for you. Veltara looked surprised. You were listening? Not on purpose. I was walking by and heard my name. Jake sat across from her. If my being here is making your life difficult, I can leave. The refugees are safe now. I have done what I came to do. And abandon Cathara? Veltara asked sharply. You accepted the bond of shield father. That is not something you can just walk away from. Then what do you want me to do? Jake asked. Your people do not accept me. I do not understand your culture. I am just a human ship captain who got in over his head. Veltara was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Jake had ever heard it. Do you know why I was so angry when Cathara was hurt? She asked. Because she is your daughter. Yes, but more than that. When my mate died, I promised him I would protect her no matter what. For 5 years I have been both mother and father to her. I have been her whole world. Veltara's skin shifted to deeper shades of blue and purple. When I saw her lying hurt in the garden, I felt like I had failed him. I had failed to protect the most important thing in my life. Jake nodded. He was beginning to understand. But then you stepped forward, Veltara continued. A stranger who had no reason to care about my people or my daughter. You were willing to die for refugees who were not even your own family. That kind of honor is rare even among Zilithians. I just did what I thought was right, Jake said. That is why Kethara bonded with you. Children can sense good hearts better than adults can. Veltara looked at Jake directly for the first time since entering his quarters. She has been happier in the past 3 weeks than she has been since her father died. Jake felt a warmth in his chest. She makes me happy too. I never had children of my own. Why not? Veltara asked. Jake sighed. I spent my whole life taking care of other people, refugees, colonists, anyone who needed help. I never had time for a family of my own. And now? Jake looked at Veltara carefully. There was something in her voice that had not been there before. Now I find myself in a very strange situation. I have become a father to an alien child, and I have no idea what I am doing. Veltara stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars shone brightly against the black of space. There is something else you need to know about Zilithian law, she said without turning around. In 9 days I must make a decision about our family arrangement, Mordan told me, Jake said quietly. Veltara turned to face him. Her crystal skin was showing colors that Jake had never seen before. They were warm and complex like the colors of a sunset. If I claim you as my mate, it would not be just for Kethara's sake, she said. It would be because I want you as my partner, as my equal, as the other half of our family. Jake's heart began to beat faster. And if you do not claim me, then you remain shield father only. You would still be part of Kethara's life, but not mine. Veltara's voice became very quiet. The choice is mine to make, but I wanted you to know what it means. She walked toward the door, then stopped. Jake Martinez, you have shown me that humans are capable of great honor. You have also shown me that my heart is not as closed as I thought it was. After she left, Jake sat alone in his quarters for hours, thinking about what she had said. His life had become something he never could have imagined. In trying to save a group of refugees, he had found a family he never knew he wanted. But the choice was not his to make. It was Veltara's, and he had no idea what she would decide. Jake woke up on the 30th day to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his quarters and an automated voice repeated warnings in several languages. The space station was under attack. He quickly dressed and ran to the command center. The hallways were full of people running in different directions. Some were station workers trying to get to their emergency posts. Others were civilians looking for safe places to hide. In the command center, Jake found chaos. Station security officers were shouting orders while screens showed the attacking ships. 3 raider vessels had appeared without warning and were demanding that the station surrender all valuable cargo and prisoners. Where is Commander Veltara? Jake asked one of the security officers. She is leading the defense fleet, the officer replied. But we are outnumbered. The raiders have heavy weapons. Jake looked at the tactical display. The raider ships were fast and well armed. Veltara's small defense force was fighting bravely, but they were clearly losing. Several Zilithian ships had already been damaged. What do they want? Jake asked. The raiders specialize in capturing valuable slaves, the security officer explained. Zilithian children bring high prices on the black market because of their crystal skin and long lifespans. Jake felt cold fear grip his heart. Kethara. He ran from the command center toward the residential areas where the civilians were being evacuated. The hallways were even more crowded now as families tried to reach the emergency shelters deep inside the station. Jake found Dr. Lisa helping to organize the evacuation. Lisa, where is Kethara? She should be with the other children in shelter. 7, Lisa replied. But Jake, you should not be here. You are not military personnel. I am her shield father, Jake said firmly. It is my job to protect her. Jake pushed through the crowd toward Shelter 7. When he got there, he found a scene of controlled panic. Parents were checking on their children while volunteers tried to keep everyone calm. Jake looked around frantically but could not see Cathara anywhere. "Where is Veltara's daughter?" he asked one of the volunteers. The volunteer looked confused. "She was here a few minutes ago, but then she said she had to find her second father. We tried to stop her, but she ran away." Jake's heart sank. Cathara was looking for him, which meant she was somewhere in the dangerous corridors of the station while raiders were attacking. He had to find her before something terrible happened. Jake searched every corridor and room he could think of. The attack was getting worse. He could feel the station shaking as enemy weapons hit the outer hull. Emergency crews ran past him carrying wounded people. Finally, Jake heard a familiar voice calling his name. He followed the sound and found Cathara hiding in a storage room. She was scared and crying, her crystal skin flickering between dark colors. "Jake!" she cried and ran to him. "I could not find you, I was so afraid." Jake hugged her tightly. "I am here now. You are safe." "The bad people want to take children away," Cathara said through her tears. "They took some of my friends already." Jake felt anger burn in his chest. Raiders who stole children were the worst kind of criminals. "That will not happen to you, I promise." Jake carried Cathara back toward the shelters, but they ran into a group of raiders in the corridor. The aliens were tall and thin with gray skin and cold eyes. They carried energy weapons and wore armor designed for boarding actions. "A Zalithian child," one of the raiders said in standard language. "She will bring a good price." The raiders pointed their weapons at Jake. "Put the child down, human, and we will not kill you." Jake set Cathara down behind him and stepped between her and the raiders. He was not armed and had no armor. Against 3 professional soldiers, he had no chance of winning a fight. "No," Jake said simply. The raiders looked surprised. "You would die for an alien child that is not even your own species?" "She is my family," Jake replied, "and I will not let you take her." The lead raider raised his weapon. "Then you will die." Before the raider could fire, a plasma blast hit him from behind. He fell to the ground unconscious. Commander Veltara stepped into the corridor, her battle armor smoking from combat and her weapons glowing with energy. "Touch my family and die," she said coldly. The other 2 raiders turned to fight her, but Veltara was faster. Her forearms moved in perfect coordination, striking with deadly precision. In seconds, both raiders were down. "Mother!" Cathara cried and ran to Veltara. Veltara picked up her daughter with 2 arms while keeping her weapons ready with the other 2. "Are you hurt?" "No, Jake protected me," Cathara said. Veltara looked at Jake over her daughter's head. Her crystal skin was showing colors of relief mixed with something deeper and warmer. "Thank you," she said quietly. "The attack?" Jake asked. "Finished. We destroyed 2 of their ships and captured the 3rd. But they had already taken some children from the outer sections." Veltara's skin darkened with anger. "We will get them back." More security forces arrived to clean up the raiders Jake and Veltara had defeated. The immediate danger was over, but Jake could see that Veltara was still tense and alert. "We need to get Cathara to safety," Veltara said. They returned to the family quarters where Veltara lived. It was Jake's first time seeing their home. The rooms were simply decorated but comfortable. Cathara's drawings covered one wall, showing stick figures of her family, including a new figure that Jake realized was supposed to be him. After making sure Cathara was safe and unharmed, Veltara sat down heavily on a chair. The battle armor made her look powerful and dangerous, but Jake could see she was exhausted. "You should not have risked yourself," she said to Jake. "You are not a soldier." "I am her shield, father," Jake replied. "Protecting her is my responsibility." "Even if it means dying?" "Yes." Veltara studied his face for a long moment. "When I saw you standing between Cathara and those raiders with no weapons and no armor, I understood something." "What?" "I understood why my daughter chose you. And I understood why Veltara stopped speaking and looked away. Cathara had been listening quietly from her bed. Now she sat up and looked at both adults seriously. "Mother, today is the last day," she said. Veltara looked confused. "Last day for what?" For you to claim Jake as your mate. Morden told me about the law. If you do not choose today, Jake can only be my shield father. Jake was surprised that the child knew about this, but he should have realized that Cathara was very intelligent and observant. Veltara's crystal skin began cycling through many different colors. She looked at Jake, then at her daughter, then back at Jake. Cathara, this is not something for children to worry about, Veltara said. But I want Jake to be my real father, Cathara said. And I want you to be happy like you were before Daddy died. Veltara's skin showed deep pain at the mention of her dead mate. Sweetheart, it is not that simple. Why not? Cathara asked. Jake is brave and kind. He protects us and makes us laugh. He would be a good father and a good husband. Jake felt, his cheeks burning with embarrassment, but he also felt something else. Hope. Veltara stood up and walked to the window. Outside, repair crews were fixing the damage from the attack. Life on the station was returning to normal, but Jake knew that nothing would ever be the same for their strange little family. Jake, Veltara said without turning around. What do you want? It was the first time she had asked him directly about his feelings. Jake thought carefully before answering. I want to be part of your family, he said honestly. Not just as shield father, but as your partner. I want to help raise Cathara and protect both of you. I want to build something good together. Veltara turned to face him. Her crystal skin was now showing the warm sunset colors that Jake had learned meant deep emotion. I was afraid to love again after Keltar died, she said softly. I thought my heart was too damaged. But watching you with Cathara, seeing you risk everything to protect strangers, fighting beside you today, I realized that my heart has been healing without me knowing it. She walked over to where Jake was sitting and knelt down so they were eye to eye. Jake Martinez, she said formally, I claim you as my mate and as father to my child. Will you accept this bond? Jake felt tears in his eyes. Yes, I accept. Cathara cheered and jumped off her bed to hug both adults at the same time. Her crystal skin was glowing bright gold with joy. Now we are a real family, she said happily. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Haven Point watching ships come and go. He was wearing the formal robes of a cultural ambassador, a position he had accepted after helping to negotiate better relations between humans and Zilithians. Veltara joined him at the window. She was also wearing formal robes, as she had become co-ambassador alongside Jake. Their work together had helped prevent several conflicts and had opened new trade routes between their species. The Earth colony ship will arrive tomorrow, Veltara said. Are you nervous about meeting more of your own people? A little, Jake admitted. They might think our family is strange. We are strange, Veltara said with amusement. But we work well together. Cathara ran up to them, carrying a ball she had been playing with in the recreation area. She was taller now, and her crystal skin showed more complex colors as she grew older. Jake, will you teach the new human children how to play baseball? She asked. If they want to learn, Jake said, catching the ball she tossed to him. I want to learn, too.